Okay, welcome everyone to this webinar. Really thanks again for attending. Perhaps just before we start, a little bit about me. My name is Peter Lawrence. I've worked as an HR business partner, HR manager in various roles, including for some of the larger international companies like ExxonMobil and GE. I've worked at a number of levels, and including senior people advisor with ExxonMobil and Qatar Petroleum over in the Gulf region, GCC. And it's fair to say I've got a broad and deep experience of both human resources and learning and development and organizational development, including projects such as the implementation of HR transformation. I'm a chartered fellow of the CIPD, which, as you know, is the Chartered Institute for Personnel and Development. It's the #1 institute for HR professionals in the UK and the wider world as well. I also hold a MA, Masters in Human Resource Management, and an MBA. And I'm the managing director of my own human resources consultancy called Human Capital Department. So hopefully that makes me quite suitably qualified to host this or to hold this webinar. So what we're going to talk about today is attracting and retaining talent. It's quite critical for businesses and all organizations these days. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the processes that we helped a large organization in the Middle East work through and implement, which we call the job family model. So I suppose the first question is, what do we mean by talent? You're probably familiar with the 80-20 rule, the Pareto Principle. The best workers do the best and the most work. That was the findings of a McKinsey consultancy report in November last year. So what we're really talking about is the most talented people in the organization do the best quality work and the most volume of work. So their output, it's all about productivity. We've heard the expression, people are our greatest asset. And my own institution, the CIPD, have been saying that for decades. A lot of organizations repeat that mantra and maybe don't always, they talk the talk, but they don't always walk the walk. But what we're really saying is people provide a sustainable competitive advantage to the organization. I suppose the first part about thinking about talent is bringing in the talent, recruiting the talent. There are a number of assessment tools that can help in doing that. One by HackerEarth, who are hosting this webinar. So do check out their talent assessment software. We ourselves also use a assessment tool for the assessment of management against competency, a competency framework. So that's where we're looking at the existing management team and really seeing how do they stack up against a 12-fold behavioral competency framework. So there's quite a lot of tools and diagnostics out there which can really help the organization recruit the right people and retain the right people as well. So first question, I suppose, is what are high performers looking for? If we're saying the top talent is the top 20% of the organization, what are these people really looking for from a role, from an organization? And here I think we need to think about frameworks like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and Herzberg's two-factor theory on motivation. I guess a lot of people will be familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, starting with the physiological needs, things like food and clothing, and moving up the pyramid to safety, love, belonging, and then finally at the top of the pyramid, self-actualization. Just a general model of why people behave and what motivates them to do what they do. Herzberg later looked at something he called two-factor theory. He was talking about motivators and hygiene factors. if you ask a room full of kids, school children, why people work, they'll almost certainly say money. But Herzberg looked at that and said, well, no, that's not really true at all. Some things have got to be right. Things like money, job security, fringe benefits, those are just the hygiene, what he called the hygiene factors, the essential things that have to be right in the employment relationship. But the motivators, what really gets people going, are things like challenge, recognition, meaningful work, and also intrinsic motivation. So I've just listed a few things here that we can take that talented people, and indeed all employers, are really looking for: meaningful work, challenging work, recognition, career growth, progression, and development opportunities. Those are the things that really make people go the extra mile. On the other hand, what is the business looking for? Why is it important to bring in talented people? And I've mentioned it already. It's all about productivity. The more engaged, the more hardworking, the more productive you can get people to be, the more you can get out of them. And if you can shift the performance curve across to the right, then you've gone from an organisation which is performing averagely to an organisation which is performing outstandingly. So that's what it's all about: really getting the best out of people so that they give of their best. When I was out in the Middle East working for an international company, we really looked carefully at how we could attract and retain people. And we came through with a number of different initiatives. The most significant, really, and the biggest part of it was something we called the job family model. So just to give you a sense of what that was all about, and I'll go into more details later in the presentation, we really looked at career development and progression, and taking those earlier ideas on board. Just an overview, we set up a governance structure. We called it the Job Family Council, and this was a committee of the senior management in each of the different job families or groups, and we tasked them for being responsible for the development of their people. This was something quite new. So then the government structure was there, and then we also tasked them with developing what we call the job family tools, which was really talking about the levels and the ladder, the way people could progress in the job family, role profiles, behavioural and technical competencies, and an assessment process. So that I just wanted to give you that overview first before getting into the detail. But also, I think it was important to think, well, why did we implement this? What were the drivers for change? And I'll skip over these fairly quickly, but just some key things are: firstly, it aligned to the business's strategic choice about people. We know that a lot of businesses say people are our greatest asset, but here was an organization that was ready to say, yes, what we're doing is we're implementing this process to attract, retain, develop a high-performing workforce. And drilling down from that, we were talking about other drivers: managing career expectations, career development, retention, and cost optimization. Also recruitment, employee engagement, motivation and commitment, and performance management. So what does the job family model look like? I've talked about the importance of the governance structure, the regular meetings of the senior management, initially tasked to develop the job family tools, but once they were in place, to then consider the performance of individuals within the job family. You know, how is this person getting on? What is he or she doing well? What are they not so good at? And really thinking about the sort of development opportunities. Could they be tasked with a particular project, or a different responsibility or additional responsibility that would, or give them some new exposure that would help build their capability. So the first one of the first early tools is the structure of the job family. We thought about, you know, okay, when do people come in? When do they join the organisation? In this case, at associate level, typically a graduate, and there'd be a graduate program that would take them from associate 1 to associate 2. They'd then be performing in the role as generalist and move up to senior generalist and specialist. What we also identified for the business, as it's an engineering business, the technical specialists were really important and contributed critically to the business. So it was important to say, well, there is a route which is not just about getting into the people management part, but you know, in this case, an advisor to senior advisor, so that even if someone wasn't particularly suited to a man management or people management role, they could progress and they could still build a career in the organization. So that was a very important message to people. And what I put here in the sideline is career growth through high performance and competency development. So we could see that someone would move up from, say, an 8 to a 7 to a 6, but only if they're performing well and they're meeting the, you know, required standards in terms of capabilities and experience. Another tool that we needed to develop were the role profiles. This looks a little bit like a job description. So we've got accountabilities, performance measures, knowledge and experience, and behavioural competencies. Again, we're saying, well, what's important to this to this role to be successful? You know, what do they need to be responsible for? What are the performance measures, and so on. How this differs from a job description is that it's applicable to all people at the same level within that job family. So it's in some ways slightly generic, and really what we're saying is the expectations are the same at that level across the job family. Two other important tools we developed. Behavioural competencies. Many of you will have seen these before. So these are we're talking about the behavioural skills. So in this example, there's one called impact and influence, and you'll see that there are different levels: level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And so we're staircasing up. So at the lower levels of the job family, at the starting level, at the graduate level or trainee level, we might expect the person to be performing at level 1. They're then perhaps still learning the job. They're doing parts of the job, but they're not performing as you'd expect a senior professional to. And then gradually moving up to level 2, level 3. And level 4, you know, usually that would be a sort of senior management type level. So that's the behavioural part, and so we had a suite of 12 behavioural competencies, and also we developed technical competencies or professional competencies, if you will. Again, for each job family, a suite of different technical competencies that those people within the job family would need to be familiar with and performing at. So in this case, there's an example of human factors behavioural competency taken from a safety, fire and security job family. Again, we've got the 4 levels, so 1, 2, 3 and 4, and we call them basic, competent, expert and advanced expert. Again, at basic level, this might be someone new to the job role, just learning the job, and perhaps just having an understanding or gaining the knowledge. Level 2, being a competent performer, and level 3, expert, and so on. So what we then did is had a mapping exercise where we thought, well, okay, at each level of the job family, what are the expectations? You know, whether that's 1, 2, 3, and 4 across the whole piece. Once we'd agreed all that, we needed to have people do a self-assessment. Where do you see yourself? Maybe you see yourself as an expert or advanced expert, but the supervisor or manager may see you rather differently. So that led to a discussion and a combined assessment process. So, okay, let's agree that in some areas you're here, some areas you're there. And of course, that really built to a career development discussion. You know, where are your strengths? Where are your development areas? And then what do you need to do next in the form of a professional development plan? This process was stewarded by the Job Family Council, so the senior managers had oversight of the process, and they could see where there were perhaps some deficiencies across the piece, getting a kind of a helicopter view, or if you like, a sort of you know, seeing the control panel of aircraft. So that was the assessment process. We had to be quite careful how we communicated that. We didn't want people to be concerned, and so we communicated as it was an opportunity for people to grow and develop within the organisation. Of course, if everyone said that they were scored 4, excellent performer, then there was nowhere to go. But the reality was really everyone has development needs of some form. So what were the results of this whole? So that was the whole process put in place. As you can imagine, it took quite a lot of effort and time, but the good thing was that we did get some positive results. It meant that we were an employer of choice, attracting talent. People knew us and recognised us as really strong employer brand. And anyone who's sort of thinking at maybe they're a fresh graduate and they're thinking, well, is this organisation for me or not? If they can see that if I join this company, there's a structured career development process, and I can be confident that I will, grow into a role and grow and build my career within the company. So it's a powerful message. It did help us improve retention. There was less regretted employee turnover. And when we say regretted, we were scoring people in the performance management process, and if they were not a good performer, then they weren't regarded as regretted. So, it was a way of sort of weeding out the people that weren't performing quite so well in the organisation. But so it was the regretted people were the people that were performing well, and we reduced that turnover from 12% to 4%. So there's a significant reduction over the course of 12-18 months. All the employees had professional development plans. It wasn't restricted to the top 20% or the talent, what we could call the talent. Again, that was a very positive message. Everyone could see, yep, this is what I'm working towards. This is what I need to do next, and this is my career roadmap within the organisation. There were a lot of lateral moves and career development moves facilitated by the Job Family Council, who had oversight of people's plans. And of course, they also knew what new projects were coming through, where there might be an opportunity for learning and development, whether that was overseas posting a slightly different role, or an increased role, or different responsibilities, which would really all help build that person, you know, and build his capability and competency. And as I say, that everyone could see that they had a career roadmap, which also helped to the managers to manage expectations. It wasn't a matter of, well, I've been here 2 years, so I deserve a promotion. Yes, you know, we can consider you for promotion once you've done this and this and this and this. And so it made it a lot more structured, and it meant that managers were better able to manage the expectations of their employees. We had a number of key performance indicators as part of the project. I won't talk about those, but just to know that we were concerned that the project was well received, and so we were very intent on listening to what the line manager's perspective, employees' perspective, external stakeholders' perspective, and also the HR management team. And another big part of the project success was really the fact that we had a project implementation plan, and we are using the sort of tools that the line management were very used to as engineering professionals. You know, things like project plan, and getting them to understand, you know, well, you know, this can't happen overnight. It's all this is the process, and it's a sort of step-by-step process, and then at the end of this process, we'll be where we want to be. And then finally, just really to let everyone know, it was part of a wider bundle of HR initiatives. So it was an important initiative of its own, but as Boxall and Purcell state, you know, in terms of HR success, it's not just one thing on its own, it's the whole, all the initiatives put together make for a successful organization. So the sort of things we were looking at were strategic workforce planning, succession planning, the whole recruitment piece, leadership and talent management, performance and reward, and so on. Please, if you have any thoughts after the session's ended, you know, you can always drop me a line, or drop me an email, or a message via HackerEarth.